Hall of Famer Dawn Staley looking to lead South Carolina to its second Final Four in 3 years. And she is one of the most dynamic performers and personalities in college basketball. All-American and Wooden Award finalist A'ja Wilson. She'll try to keep the spotlight away from ACC Player of the Year Shakayla Thomas and Florida State with a spot in the Final Four on the line. And welcome to the NCAA Women's Championship presented by Capital One. From Stockton Arena in Stockton, California, about an hour south of Sacramento. #1 seed South Carolina and #3 seed Florida State. The Seminoles have never been to a Final Four. The winner of this game will move on to play Stanford. Connecticut advancing to the Final Four for the 10th straight year. Will meet up with Mississippi State, making its first appearance. And this is a rematch of 2015, the Elite Eight between South Carolina and Florida State. And A'ja Wilson off the bench was terrific with 10 points in 14 minutes.
Well, it was a dogfight, and South Carolina would go on to win behind the heroics of takeover Tiffany Mitchell in the fourth quarter. But boy, was it one that both of these teams remember.
All right, that's LaChina Robinson. I'm Dave Pash. And one of the cool things about this matchup is 10 years ago, neither team was on the college basketball radar. Now, every year, they're a contender for the Final Four. And for South Carolina, it starts with A'ja Wilson, LaChina, but they have so much more. She's gotten so much help here in the tournament.
Yeah, South Carolina has always had great defensive teams, but this is arguably the best offensive team that Dawn Staley has ever had. I call them the triple threat. Inside with A'ja Wilson, Kayla Davis is the outside assassin, and Alicia Gray will do a little bit of everything, whatever they need. But don't get it twisted. The bread and butter is on the interior with the AP All-American A'ja Wilson. Let's take a look at some plays here for South Carolina's offense. They have to give her the ball. She will work extremely hard. She will post up. She will ask for the lob. She's great at using her body, but they've got to keep her out of foul trouble by getting her a bounce pass. Just however you got to do it, get the big girl the ball. And one thing that Dawn Staley has been doing without Elena Coates is putting A'ja Wilson at the high post, especially against the zone. She is showing us her versatility because even though there are defenders at bay, she can put it on the deck, score in traffic at 6'5". She is quite the specimen.
And LaChina for Florida State, its top player, Shakayla Thomas, but the seniors, they've been the story for Florida State in the tournament so far.
This is the core group of seniors for Sue Sammarau, and they have a collective chemistry. They've got experience and a toughness. Ivy Slaughter, Leticia Romero, and Brittany Brown, they will be the key for the Seminoles in getting a win tonight.
And with more in this group, let's bring in now the third member of our crew, Molly McGrath.
Well, Dave, those seniors feel a sense of responsibility to bring their team to a Final Four after coming up short against South Carolina in 2015. And Leticia Romero stressed that two things really stuck with her after that loss. First was how much her body hurt afterwards, how much pain she was in. She said physically it was a battle. They had to battle for every single basket, and nothing came easy. And second, Romero remembers the heartbreak that her team felt after the loss, admitting that her and the other seniors have thought about and referenced that game almost every day since, and they are out for revenge tonight, Dave.
And no team played Connecticut tougher this year than Florida State. Only lost by 2 points earlier in the season. As we look at our Capital One starting lineups for Florida State, the seniors, Brown, Slaughter, Romero, Thomas, a junior. And for South Carolina, Kayla Davis coming off a 28-point performance against Quinnipiac in the Sweet 16. Winner moves on to Dallas and the Final Four. And right off the bat, it's Davis getting the roll on the game's opening shot.
Florida State starting out in a switching man-to-man defense. The focus will be on the interior, but with Kayla Davis knocking down shots, they have to know where she is at all times.
Three-pointer won't fall for right, and it's cleared by A'ja Wilson. South Carolina throughout this tournament and the rest of the way will be without one of its best players, Elena Coates, the leading rebounder in the SEC, hurt an ankle in the middle of conference play and is out for the rest of the year. But some think they're better without her. Got a foul here on Florida State. First foul in the game. Well, Dawn Staley, Hall of Fame player, and she's getting quite the reputation as a coach. She's built this South Carolina program, third Elite Eight in 9 years, and she's also the head coach now of USA basketball in the next Olympics.
What she has done in such a short time, turning South Carolina into national championship contender. No one ever saw that coming. And you add to that the attendance, the excitement in Columbia. Women's basketball is a big deal.
Three-pointer goes for Alicia Gray, and it's 5-0 South Carolina.
And right away, we start the open with Asia Wilson, but guess who scored so far? The complimentary players that have stepped up since the land coach went out, Kayla Davis and Alicia Gray.
Swatted out of bounds by Wilson.
Alicia Gray starts at the power forward, but she can stretch the floor. She's a natural guard, so Shakayla Thomas is going to have to come outside and guard her with a high hand. She can knock down the three.
Thomas missing, and great hustle by Slaughter. But South Carolina has it as freshman point guard Ty Harris. See how she does against the senior guards for Florida State.
Now the tallest interior defender for Florida State in this lineup is Ivy Slaughter, number 23. She's 6'1", but she will be physical with Wilson.
Davis with a step back. Unable to knock it down. Now Florida State has been off to a slow start in every NCAA tournament game. As White misses, but Sue Semrau told us earlier today that she hasn't really emphasized that. Said there's already enough pressure on our team. We don't want to be talking about what we haven't done in the tournament.
When you've got this many seniors, this many upperclassmen, this much experience, you shouldn't have to remind them.
Wilson misses. Florida State trailing 5-0, 2.5 minutes in. They were down big in the first quarter of their regional semifinal win against Oregon State. They were down 21-4 at one point and came back to win, obviously. It's a 30-point swing in that game as Wright gets the Noles on the board.
And that's an important shot for Imani Wright. Sue Semrau really believes that she's one of the best scorers on this team. She's got experience. She played in 2 Elite Eights for Baylor, transferring to Florida State this season. Got
a lot of transfers in this game who have NCAA tournament experience, including Kayla Davis, who started out at Georgia Tech. And Davis with 4 of the 7 for South Carolina.
And Kayla Davis already showing her versatility at 6'2". She is a handful. In the backcourt for Florida State is not tall, so it's very hard to defend a player that can do what Kayla Davis can do.
Here's Romero, and one of the reasons for their turnaround in the regional semis was her offense. She became much more aggressive. Romero finished with 18 points in that game, and in the meeting 2 years ago against South Carolina, she had 13 points, but struggled to shoot the ball. She wasn't 100% in that game. Had a hand injury that she fought through, Romero. And here she is again. Slaughter with the spin and the finish. How about 9 steals for Slaughter? That is an NCAA regional record for a single game.
And you can't even put into words what Ivy Slaughter brought to the floor that second half against Oregon State, because she did so many things that don't show up on the stat sheet. And Kayla Davis right now is in control on the offensive end for South Carolina.
3-point chance here for Asia Wilson. Slaughter picked up the foul.
Watch how Davis puts the ball on the deck. She's 6'2", so she can see over the help defender. Asia Wilson 6'5". Good vision. And then how about Slaughter, not afraid to go after the shot blocker? She's going to have to make Asia Wilson work on the defensive end. Dawn Staley doesn't have a lot of depth in the post, so if you can get Wilson in foul trouble, that'd be a good place to start.
And we mentioned Coates is out, so obviously you can get Wilson on the bench. They don't have as much depth at that position. A freshman, Makia Herbert Harrigan, has had a good tournament, but again, it's her first go-around. This shot by Brown, and it will go to South Carolina. We talked about the job that Dawn Staley has done in 9 years. It took longer for Sue Semrau. They had 16 wins her first 2 years combined, but they've been to the NCAA tournament now every year but one over the last 13. And this is her 3rd Elite Eight.
And a lot of what we've seen from Florida State with the recent success has to do with the level of talent on their roster. Transfers, international players. Sue Semrau has really upgraded the talent on the roster.
Ball away, won't go for Romero. And right now, Wilson owns the glass.
One problem for Florida State right now is South Carolina turns it over. We have not called the name of Shakayla Thomas. The ACC Player of the Year has to get touches. They've got to find a way to get her involved in this game. She's 0 for 1.
We saw her on the bench moments ago. Well, one of the reasons she did not start her first 2 years was because of defense. She wasn't an all-around player. And became a 6th player of the year as a freshman, won that award again last year, and as a starter for the first time, she wins player of the year. And Dawn Staley, the South Carolina head coach, says she's the one that got away. They wanted her. Right on cue, Thomas with the jumper.
And that's actually a really good shot for Thomas. You know, in their game against Oregon State, she didn't shoot the ball well because she did not get in her sweet spot. And that is outside of the area which we're used to seeing her score. So if she's knocking down shots there, Dawn Staley's in trouble.
Entry pass, they double Wilson immediately. And how about that power move by Wilson? And then a steal on the inbounds pass, and Thomas makes it worse by committing a foul. A 3-point chance for Harris. Early lead for South Carolina here in the first. South Carolina by 6 over Florida State. And obviously this is a long way from home for both of these schools. But this is not the first time that South Carolina, as a top seed, has had to travel west. Back in 2014, they came out to Palo Alto and lost in the Sweet 16 as a 1 seed. Closer to home than next year, and they beat Florida State in the Elite Eight to get to the Final Four for the first time. Last year, back west as a 1 seed to Sioux Falls, and again, they failed to make the Final Four, losing in the regional semifinals. How will they fare tonight in the Elite Eight here in Stockton? And so far, so good, leading by 6 points.
Well, obviously, Dawn Staley was disappointed because she wanted Gamecock Nation to join her team. But at some point, you got to get over the hump. You know, you look at the results of being sent out west in the past. And, I mean, in my opinion, it's been the easier route. It's not always about the location, but you look at the matchups and who you're going to have to face. And there weren't as many teams that had Final Four appearances in the Stockton region as there were the other 3.
And they played Quinnipiac, a 12 seed in the regional semifinals, won by 42. And then the 2 seed Oregon State lost to Florida State in the regional semis. Romero missing. South Carolina with a 7-point advantage, 6 of 10 shooting for the Gamecocks. And of course, South Carolina trying to join the men's team in the Final Four. It's only happened 12 times in the same season, and 4 times by Connecticut that both the men and women have made the Final Four in the same season. Traveling violation on SC.
Well, the team was really excited yesterday at practice. They had their official practice during their men's game, but they all huddled around the television and were celebrating. It was really a exciting scene, obviously, for the Gamecocks.
Now Frank Martin getting the Gamecocks as a 7 seed to the Final Four. And then with that going on, the football program, they're about to unveil this beautiful new indoor facility. It's groundbreaking. And they had to postpone that. And they also had to move the start time of their spring game up because of the national semifinal on Saturday. Shatrice White gets the basket for Florida State.
Good score there by Shatrice White. She has the ability to take Asia Wilson away from the basket because she can face up and shoot from the outside.
Harris, freshman point guard. First time Dawn Staley has started a freshman at the point. Shot clock at 5. Wilson normally doesn't shoot it from that far out, but she nails it.
Well, Asia's dad, upon arriving in South Carolina, told Dawn he thought she should have been a point forward. Now, I would have totally agreed with that, but some of the things we've seen with her in the NCAA tournament, she is really expanding her game from off the bounce and also her outside shot.
Look at Thomas, tremendous athlete. Missed the first time, but got it back and put it in.
We have not seen an athlete, at least here, Dave, in our region, that can match up with the likes of Shakayla Thomas. Obviously, there's a Gabby Williams lurking for the Connecticut Huskies, but Shakayla's a specimen.
5'11", and she can dunk.
Enough said.
Another power move by Wilson, and they just can't handle it right now.
Yeah, there's just not a matchup for her. I mean, you guard her inside, outside, doesn't matter. She will find a way to score.
So what's the adjustment, or is there an adjustment you can make?
I think you got to make her give up the ball. I think you've got to come with a stronger double team and force some of her teammates to knock down outside shots consistently.
Romero spins that one out. She's struggling for the floor to start the game. 1-5. Moore almost took that ball away from Romero on the rebound. And White out of control. Got it to go. That pass almost let her out of bounds. And good feet that time by White.
Yeah, great rim run. And I'll tell you this, Brittany Brown and Leticia Romero will find you on the break. They love to run. They're outstanding passers. Both have played the point guard position at some point in this year.
Here's Gray, and she was fouled. And if that's Thomas, that's 2. Yep, Shakayla Thomas picking up her second.
Take a look at Asia Wilson with her versatility here on the face-up game. She's 6'5", lines up the jump shot, left-handed. And when she is scoring in a variety of ways, you got to bring 2 players right there, try to crowd her space, make her give up the ball. And there's the foul by Shakayla Thomas. And I'll tell you this, Dawn Staley wanted to challenge Shakayla Thomas' defense. So they have been running plays at Thomas in an attempt to force her to guard. And now she's in foul trouble.
And all she had to do there was just stay straight up. She put that right hand down. The official saw that, said no verticality. That's a foul. We saw her make a mistake on an inbounds pass as well when she turned it over. And we'll see how long Sue Semrau can keep her on the bench.
Well, they do have depth. I mean, Shatrice White was the 6th player of the year in the ACC. But that means more pressure on Amani Wright. And also, Leticia Romero is going to have to step up when she's on the floor.
Nicole Ikamu is coming to the game. Getting some minutes here late as White draws the foul. As a smart play. First on Asia Wilson. NCAA Women's Final Four starts on ESPN2 Friday from Dallas. And again, it's going to be Connecticut and Mississippi State, 10th straight Final Four for UConn. First for Mississippi State. Stanford, 7th Final Four in the last 10 years. The Cardinal will play the winner of this game. Both games will be presented by Capital One, streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN.
All I got to say is this, Dave. Morgan Williams has the juice. I mean, 41 points and made it look easy. 5'5" point guard, and I don't even know if she's 5'5". But I'll tell you this, I was impressed with that performance against Baylor.
But enough juice to beat that team.
She can cause some problems, I'll tell you that, for any defense, because she is very good at making reads off the bounce. I believe she had 7 or more assists as well to add to that 41 points, so she can be a handful.
Wilson sitting out the final minute of this quarter. Dawn Staley doesn't want her to get her second foul here late. As Cuevas Moore, that's an offensive foul, her first.
This is something we've seen from Bianca Cuevas Moore. Just sometimes it's a little out of control. She's got to either get a pull-up jump shot or jump stop and look to make a pass because you've got 2 defenders at bay.
That's 4 turnovers by South Carolina. Florida State have been more careful with the ball, and that's allowed them to stay in the game. It feels like South Carolina's up a lot more than 6 points the way this first quarter is gone. Make it 4. Basket by Brittany Brown.
Unless something miraculous happens down the stretch, Florida State is going to end the first quarter behind again in the NCAA tournament. This is the 4th time that that's happened.
8 seconds remaining in the opening frame. 3 seconds left. Harris, deep 3, nails it. The freshman with a huge shot to end the first quarter. And so South Carolina puts up 24 first quarter points. Molly McGrath will talk with Florida State head coach Sue Semrau before the second quarter here in Stockton.
Final Florida State trails South Carolina, and I'm here with with Seminoles head coach Sue Semrau and coach Shakayla Thomas with 2 personal fouls early. What does she need to do moving forward?
Well, that hurts us a little bit, obviously, but, you know, she's just got to play better defense. We got to play better team defense right now. We've given up too many points.
Asia Wilson dominating in the post. What do you need to do against her defensively?
Tremendous. She's a tremendous player. We just got to keep making vision hard for their guards to get her the ball.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Florida State no stranger to first quarter deficits here in the NCAA tournament. They still have not hit a 3 since the second round. Yet managed to come back from trailing big in that first quarter in the Sweet 16 to win by 13. Asia Wilson, outstanding first quarter here tonight. 9 points, 4 rebounds already, and I would say she was loose in pregame.
Oh, she said, check my footwork, ladies and gentlemen. The face-up game has been on point off the drive. She can do so many things, even with the double. Look at the patience. The rhythm dribble and still takes it up at 6'5". You see why she was named AP All-American. There just aren't very many players I've seen in the college game that can do the things Asia Wilson can do.
Second straight year, she's a Player of the Year finalist nationally. She's going to start the second quarter on the bench here. So let's see what kind of minutes Herbert Harrigan gives them here in the second quarter. Kayla Davis had 4 points in that first frame for South Carolina.
We've seen that spread offense for South Carolina. Good steal by Imani Wright.
And Wright gets the layup on the other end. They needed a spark. Wright has given that to them in the past.
And that's what Sue Semrau was talking to Molly about. We need more ball pressure. We have to have more defensive intensity. That's where they turned it up against Oregon State.
Cuevas Moore, rainbow 3, too strong, and pulled down by Ivy Slaughter, who almost had a triple-double in the Sweet 16. 11 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 steals. Well, it looked like Brown might have had a layup. She was looking to pass it all the way, and that is going to be a held ball or a travel. No, they say travel. Either way, it was going to be South Carolina basketball.
One of the questions coming into this game for me was could South Carolina's defense contain the backcourt of Florida State? Remembering that Dawn Staley started off this season really focused on their offense, trying to tie in Kayla Davis, the transfer, trying to bring in Alicia Gray, get her comfortable with her 2 post players. The defensive end was what struggled early on, but we've seen them improve on that end of the floor. And they've done a very good job to start this game. And
they led the SEC in field goal defense as Kayla Davis scores. They were also the top scoring team and the top shooting team in the SEC, which already has 1 team in the Final Four in Mississippi State. How about Kayla Davis and her emergence here the last week?
And there really hasn't been an answer for her. I mean, right here off of the bounce, and she's playing against Ivy Slaughter, who is really a power forward. So she's got the speed advantage. And Florida State's just got to bring consistent pressure.
Now we have a held ball, and it's going to go to South Carolina. Florida State trying to get to the Final Four for the first time. South Carolina has been there once. That was 2 years ago. And they beat the Noles to get there in the regional final. Davis pass just off the mark, and there's Slaughter defensively.
So we're seeing a couple turnovers by South Carolina, but can the Noles make them pay?
And Romero can't. Rebounded by Herbert Harrigan. And Romero 1 for 6 from the floor.
When you create live ball turnovers, you got to turn that into points.
Shot clock at 8. Davis in the corner, puts it on the deck. And a foul on the play on Florida State. First foul on the Noles here in the second quarter. It's on Imani Wright. The 2017 NCAA Men's Final Four starts Saturday on CBS at 6 Eastern with the South Carolina Gamecocks taking on Gonzaga for a spot in the national championship game. For more, go to ncaa.com. First appearance for the South Carolina men in the Final Four, and the women trying to join them. The women's Final Four starts Friday in Dallas. Wilson draws the foul on the power move again. Degbion picks up the foul. Well, you know Frank Martin is watching. In fact, he tweeted earlier here and thinking I can relax today, and I can't. Still waiting for the Gamecock women's game, and let's go Gamecock Nation.
Yeah, late tip for the East Coasters. 9 p.m.
Sandarius Thornwell has had a terrific NCAA tournament for South Carolina's men's team. Syracuse last year had both the men's and women's teams make the Final Four. And Asia Wilson continues to pile up points, and the lead is 9 now for the Gamecocks. They have yet to miss at the foul line. The largest lead of the first half for South Carolina. Wilson has 11 points, and here's a rebound by Gray.
Really solid screen defense by South Carolina, forcing a contested shot by Leticia Romero. I think Florida State's got to be more patient on the offensive end. Use both sides of the floor.
They double Wilson again. She just shoots right over it. Held ball. It'll be Florida State's turn.
Let's see how deep into the shot clock Florida State can get. You know, they're really not getting ball reversals, shooting it on first side. I think they just got to be more patient.
We talked about the backcourt, and so far it has not been good. Romero and Brown have combined 2 of 11 from the floor. Those are 2 seniors. The other senior, Slaughter, has done her part. And here is a foul called on the jumper by Romero. She'll shoot 2. That's the first on South Carolina here in the quarter. It's on Ty Harris.
Well, one thing that's changed for this Florida State team over the course of this year is Leticia Romero used to be the primary point guard and has now moved to the wing. And this is a player that's played her whole life with the ball in her hands, but she has the ability to score. She scores it well all over the floor, but it's been Brittany Brown who has taken the reins, and she just brings more pace to the game. But it's been a good change for Sue Semrau's team.
And it's interesting, if you take a close look at the hands of Romero, you can see how they're red. And she has a condition that she struggles with when it's very cold. It's hard to keep her hands warm. And with more on that, let's bring in Molly McGrath.
Yeah, that's right, Dave. It's called Raynaud's disease. It results in limited blood supply to her hands and feet. Her fingers often red and numb, and the training staff has hot packs for her to warm up her hands. And it's not an issue in Florida where it's much warmer, but she's struggled with it this week. There is ice under the court, so it is much colder in this arena, Dave.
And there's not a ton of bodies in here either to warm it up.
Well, hopefully that three-pointer by Imani Wright warms it up for the Noles. She is their best three-point shooter, 67 on the season, shooting just under 40%.
And that's their first three-pointer since their second-round game. They beat Oregon State without a 3 in the regional semifinals.
Going back to what Molly just talked about with Leticia's hands, you see they are very red, and you're a player that has the ball in your hands a lot. It's tough, you know, if they're always cold. So they keep the hand warmers and whatever you can over there, but it's something that she's always had to deal with, and you know, could come into play in terms of when she starts to hit shots. It could be later rather than earlier in the game.
Offensive rebound by Degbion off the miss by Slaughter, and they're going to reset. This is about the time in the regional semifinal that Florida State's offense got going. Brown hits, and it's a three-point game. Same story for the Noles offensively. Poor first quarter, pick it up in the second quarter, and get back in the game. Meanwhile, South Carolina without a field goal the last 3 minutes, and Asia Wilson picks up her second foul, and Slaughter draws the charge. How do you handle this if you're Dawn Staley? Leave her out there with 5 minutes to go, or pull her? They're going to pull her.
Yeah, I don't think you can leave her out there on the court. But Ivy Slaughter is the defensive catalyst and energy for Florida State, so no surprise there that she picked up that second foul on Asia Wilson. Take a look. She's been looking to go off of the drive, and that's a great call. I mean, Slaughter establishes legal defensive position outside of restricted area. Wilson just ran over.
And again, Elena Colts, another big, is out due to injury here in the NCAA tournament. So Herbert Harrigan getting more minutes. Wright looking to tie the game. Misfires on the 3.
See, I think they can get that shot later in the shot clock. I think you can get a better shot if you work it around. and maybe not contest it. So you can get that three, but not with a hand in your face if you wait and just make some passes.
Plus, when you've made 1 in 3 games, you might want to try to go inside, just like Kayla Davis did on the drive that time.
And Kayla Davis has been putting on a dribble weave clinic. I mean, she puts it on the deck. There's no one to keep her out of the paint. Florida State may have to look to go play some zone to clog up the middle.
Amani Wright with the pull-up jumper. Well, you talked about her experience at Baylor. You wonder how much that is impacting how calm she is so far in this game. Very poised performance.
I was thinking about that watching the Baylor game, that she would have been a senior on that team, and they struggled a little bit in the backcourt. Christy Wallace did not have her best performance, and Amani would have. She was already playing quality minutes when she transferred. That could have been a difference maker.
Harris off the bounce. She hit a 3 at the end of the first quarter. That's a 2-pointer, and the lead back to 5. After a poor start for Florida State, they're shooting 50% from the floor their last 22 attempts. Here's Wright again. She's got the hot hand. And there's a foul away from the ball. It's on Florida State.
Well, it's been the interior attack for South Carolina with Asia Wilson. And for Florida State from the outside, Amani Wright. We're going to find out who's got the juice.
And Coach Landers dead on Maria, 60% from the floor, 100% at the line, 6 of 6. South Carolina leading by 5, 3.5 to play. Winner to the Final Four in Dallas to play Stanford. Alicia Gray, beautiful shot by Gray.
Did you see the surprise face afterwards? She's like, oh, it went in. Alicia Gray can do a little bit of everything, and with the departure of Elena Coates, unable to play due to injury, she's had to step up and provide more of everything.
Amani Wright misses, but a second chance opportunity here for Florida State. Here's Wright again for 3.
Boy.
Taking a lot of shots here.
And again, just not really shots out of their offense.
Asia Wilson on the bench with 2 personal fouls. South Carolina's been able to hold its lead. That one off the foot, though, of Herbert Harrigan. When we talk about punching tickets, how about plane tickets? There's Antonio Davis, Kayla's dad. Now, Antonio's son, AJ, who is Kayla's twin brother, he plays for Central Florida, which is in the NIT in New York. So Antonio and Kendra, the parents of Kayla, they're going to get on a red-eye flight tonight to New York to go watch the NIT on Tuesday and Thursday. And then they have to fly Friday morning to Dallas if South Carolina wins to watch Kayla play in the Final Four.
Oh, man. This is a good time of year for the parents. Racking up the Sky Miles.
Again, Gray, terrific play offensively. And so a timeout by Florida State as South Carolina, despite Asia Wilson's foul trouble, able to extend the lead. Well, the support for South Carolina has been tremendous all season long. They lead college basketball in attendance. They've had a good turnout here in Stockton.
Well, they put a good product on the floor, and Alicia Gray is a part of that. And there is her teammate and one of her best friends, Asia Wilson, approving. But the product that Dawn Staley had put on the floor, especially with the growth this season, you know, we were wondering, would they ever have enough offense on that roster? Dawn has always had smaller teams in her earlier years at South Carolina, very defensive, very tough. But when you have 3 players on the floor that are 1,000-point scorers and can put up 20, 25 points a night, it changes the complexion of any team.
Inside 2 minutes to go here in the first half. It's a 9-point advantage. White under the basket, able to muscle it home. She's had a nice night so far off the bench.
And I'm surprised they haven't gone to her more, just because that's a higher percentage look. You said that earlier, Dave, going inside instead of really forcing up some outside shots. But this is where they've got to make the biggest improvement on the defensive end, dictating, not reacting.
Davis with the crossover. Lost the handle. Harris, the freshman, with 5 on the shot clock. Kleine sees it. Could have made one more pass. Elected to put it up there. And contact under the basket. Kleine fouling Slaughter. That's a 13 foul on South Carolina. Here's Romero just inside the arc. Can't knock it down. She's 1 for 10 from the floor.
And the Noles really lucky not to be down by a larger margin, only 7 at this point, but they have got to regroup on both ends. But part of their offensive attack, that 80 points per game they scored this year, was their defense. So points off of turnovers, that's where they can really make up for where they're struggling in the half court.
7 to shoot. It will stay with South Carolina. Men's ice hockey and the Frozen Four in Chicago. Regional semifinals Friday, 3 Eastern on ESPN2 and watch ESPN. And visit NCAA.com, the home for all 90 NCAA championships. So 7 to shoot for the Gamecocks. Again, Asia Wilson on the bench with 2 fouls. Able to extend the lead without her. And Davis, a big reason why. Just too much to handle in the paint.
Now, Brittany Brown is a great defender. Very tough-minded, likes to lock you down. But when you're facing a 6'2" scorer that can do a little bit of everything like Kayla Davis, she's been a problem in this first half.
Bad pass by Brown. The steal by Gray. Fires to Davis. Can't put it in, but she'll go to the line for 2. If you had to pick one player in the NCAA Women's Championship that has improved her stock and has gotten America's attention more than anybody else, I think it's Kayla Davis and what she's done so far.
I mean, she's definitely impressed me. And it's not that we didn't know that Kayla Davis wasn't a great player. I mean, she was her entire AAU high school. I mean, she was a top player, but you got to prove that you can do it at the highest levels, meaning further into the NCAA tournament with more on the line. That's when you get that title of greatness. It's when you perform at that level, not how well you perform.
Obviously great genes with Antonio. Spent a decade in the NBA, best known for his years with the Pacers. And Reggie Miller was starring there. That great 30 for 30. Reggie Miller against the Knicks. 20 seconds remaining in the half. Timeout. South Carolina leading by 11.
And Kayla actually said that her dad was her first coach. She remembers being a little girl, and you know, she said, my dad has always been about the details, and with me and my brother, she said he knows the game so well. He taught us all the fundamentals. So, you know, you think about that relationship father-daughter, and just that they have that bond in basketball, that he's been able to mentor her in this game.
A.J. Davis, they're twins. A.J. plays for UCF, which is in the NIT, playing in the Garden. Dale Davis, Antonio Davis, 13 years in the NBA, played with Dale Davis, although they're not related, although they were called the Davis brothers.
I used to get them confused all the time when they played.
10 seconds to go here in the first half, and a turnover, 5-second violation by Imani Wright.
Great job by South Carolina out of the timeout, not allowing Florida State to grab hold of the momentum before the half.
And able to extend this lead with Wilson on the bench. Here's Kayla Davis with 7 seconds to go. One-on-one against Romero with 4. Davis with 2, drives, lost the ball, out of bounds, 0.3 of a second left. Can they get a tip here near the rim? Throw it up there for Davis. And that's the end of the first half. South Carolina in command, trying to get to the Final Four for the second time in 3 years. The Gamecocks with their largest lead of the first half. And again, they did it with Asia Wilson on the bench in foul trouble. But when Asia was on the floor, she was dominant. She had 11 points, and she's with Molly.
Thank you, Dave. Asia, 2 personal fouls early. How will that affect how you play in the second half?
I mean, I just got to play smart now. I mean, they're playing great out there. I mean, it's really coming together. We're playing very well. So, I mean, I'm not worried, but at the same time, I know I have to be cautious now, and they're probably going to be coming for me. So I just have to play smart in these situations.
How was your team able to extend the lead with you on the bench?
I feel like our defense is great, and we're getting a lot of stops, and we're getting a lot of transition buckets and easy buckets, and the ball is just going through the hoop for us. I don't want to jinx this at all, but they're playing really well, and I just love, of course I would want to be out there, but I just love watching them play right now.
All right, thanks, Asia.
And it is going through the hoop indeed. South Carolina, 60% shooting in the first half. Florida State, 38%. Time now for the Northwestern Mutual halftime report. Let's go to the studio and Maria Taylor. Welcome back to the NCAA Women's Championship presented by Capital One. One half in the book. South Carolina up by 11. Its largest lead of the first half over Florida State. Asia Wilson was on the bench for the final 5 minutes and 14 seconds, but they extended their lead. Sue Semrau realizes time is running out. They've got to find the intensity defensively or they are going home, and it will be South Carolina moving on to play Stanford in the Final Four. Connecticut is there for the 10th straight year. Mississippi State for the first time. Dave Pasch and LaChina Robinson, Molly McGrath in a minute. And this game's going to be over unless Florida State finds a way to stop the big three of South Carolina, our Capital One Cup impact performance.
Yeah, Asia Wilson, we knew could come in and do some damage, and she did exactly that. Against the double team, didn't matter. Really was scoring at will to start the game. 11 points for her. Then Kayla Davis, I thought, was a great catalyst as well, just being aggressive off of the bounce. And then the third factor of this offense for Dawn Staley, and that is Alicia Gray. They shot 60% from the field in the first half. Sue Semrau has got to be completely disappointed with her defense.
Here's Molly with more.
Well, Dawn Staley talked to South Carolina's head coach. She commented on Asia Wilson's 2 personal fouls. She said the third one is actually my concern. If she doesn't pick that up halfway through, we'll continue to play her normally as is. And she said we're very comfortable with our smaller lineup. Her biggest concern, though, she stressed, is that she knows that Florida State is going to go on a run, especially when Shakayla Thomas comes back in the game. She's also dealing with foul trouble.
Well, she just got her third. Yep. There it was. And it was Shakayla Thomas, who was in foul trouble, played 7 minutes for Florida State in the first half to get to the basket.
Well, Shakayla Thomas is so good at running the floor, giving the camera some love, but she needs to give the bucket some points here in the third quarter. So already Dawn Staley having to make an adjustment, and it looked like Asia Wilson clipped the foot of Thomas on that foul, so it wasn't anything, you know, where Asia Wilson didn't really have too much control in that situation. Just wrong place, the wrong time.
Thomas can't get the free throw. They had a chance at a putback, but Slaughter hit the bottom of the backboard. South Carolina needs more from its guards offensively, too. Leticia Romero was 1 for 10 in that first half. Brittany Brown had 4 points, took only 4 shots. Elite Davis open, can't do that. Dale is too good. Davis too good when she has that long to pull the trigger.
You have to run her off of the three-point line. Thomas on the miss in transition, but you got to make her put it on the deck, and then the help rotation has to be there. But you definitely can't let Kayla get hot from 3. We've seen that here in Stockton.
Ed Davis in the NCAA tournament coming into tonight, shooting right around 50% from three-point range. And here she is on the drive, lost it. 2-on-1, Brown and Romero, and Brown makes the right play. Romero with a layup.
I like the aggressive defensive play. You've got to get tips and deflections. That's what Florida State did in that Oregon State game. You heard Rebecca talk about that at the half. Like, their active hands, active feet. You got to make this offense uncomfortable.
A really small lineup. Instead of Herbert Harrigan on the floor, it's Kleine in there for Wilson. Look at Kayla Davis. She's probably the tallest player on the floor right now for South Carolina, and she's their best playmaker.
And she's the tallest player on the floor for either team.
Thomas fouled again. You see how important she is to Florida State. As you look at Chris Mullen, who was a teammate on the Pacers with Antonio Davis, now the head coach at St. John's.
Well, I mean, look, a piece of the paint. Whenever you let someone drive off of the dribble, get a piece of the paint, and then the kick out. It starts with containing one-on-one, You don't want to have to force the help rotation because South Carolina's been so good at finding the open man. Active feet. And credit South Carolina, they've got so much patience on the offensive end. They have found good shot after good shot.
A foul inside here on the drive, and if that's Thomas, it's 3. Instead, they get Ikamu for the foul, her first. First on Florida State. Cuevas Moore at the line for South Carolina. Well, Bianca Cuevas Moore was big 2 years ago in the regional final against Florida State when she scored 9 points. And South Carolina made it to the Final Four for the first time.
We talked earlier about the change at point guard for Sue Samurai. Well, Dawn Staley had to do the same thing. I mean, Bianca Cuevas Moore was expected to come back and start, but Ty Harris has given this team a different gear. She's given them a poise, really helped their offensive flow. She's so talented, even as a freshman. So Cuevas Moore can bring a spark off of the bench.
Brown misfires on the 3, but tracks down her own miss. Slaughter leaning in, and a foul on Kayla Davis. 3 on the Gamecocks here in the quarter.
Ivy Slaughter so good at creating contact. She never stops moving on the interior. She's 6'1", so she's always undersized. But right here, gets it at the high post, and I like the idea. Get to the rack.
Slaughter did everything for Florida State in the regional semifinal, and she did everything in high school, not just basketball. She was a state champ in the triple jump, won the 400-meter dash as well. They need more scoring from her, though, in this game, just 3 points. Gets the second free throw.
She is definitely the glue, the energy, the X factor. Her activity can force turnovers and lead to offense. She's got to be engaged.
Well, you made the point. 9 steals in one game from a forward. It's not like she's defending the primary ball handler throughout the game. And a bad decision there. Interception by Kleining. Numbers for South Carolina, 3 on 2. But they pull it out. If you're Dawn Staley right now, you're fine with Asia Wilson staying on the bench because they are not stopping Kayla Davis at all on penetration. She's getting wherever she wants, whenever she wants.
And with this smaller lineup, South Carolina Florida State doesn't have a rim protector in the game. No one with any size. Like you said, Davis is the tallest player on the court.
Romero continues to struggle. She is 2 of 12 now from the floor. And again, they don't stop ball. Harris to the ring for the easy layup. Timeout, Florida State. We thought they might be better without Elena Coates. Nobody thought they'd be better without Asia Wilson. But for whatever reason tonight, it's worked out that way. They continue to extend the lead with their big on the bench. South Carolina up big with a spot in the Final Four at stake. Well, the star of the show for South Carolina has been Kayla Davis. 18 points, 8 of 10 from the floor, coming off a 28-point night in the regional semifinals.
She's dialed in. She's focused. She talked about transferring to South Carolina because she wanted to do something special and really thought that South Carolina had a great opportunity to win a national championship because of Dawn Staley's experience and because of what they had on the roster.
Florida State turns it over on its opening possession as Kleining hits. Molly McGrath was listening in on the Seminole huddle during the timeout. Molly?
Well, Dave, Florida State's Brittany Brown very upset in the timeout, coaching up her teammates on their will to stop dribble penetration. And Sue Semrau challenged her players, saying somebody besides Ivy Slaughter needs to be willing to take a charge or else they'll keep scoring. And she said, this is nothing to come back from. You guys just need to fight together. I don't even want to talk about it. Just go fight.
Well, they turned it over on the first 2 possessions since that timeout, and their best player, Shaquille Thomas, is on the bench and was getting a talking to from the head coach during that timeout as well.
Yeah, I believe Sue Samurai is addressing her defense. You know, she puts up great numbers, but the one area of growth over time, and you mentioned this, Dave, which is why she was coming off the bench the first 2 years of her career, was the commitment to the defensive end. And right now, South Carolina is shooting over 60% from the field. You need your best player to commit to that end of the floor.
And after you have a whole half to discuss it, the opponent's 4 or 5 this quarter, 2 layups. And the lead is 16 for South Carolina midway through the 3rd quarter. Florida State team that averaged 80 points per game, so they can get hot. But again, you're playing against a very good defensive team as well. And how about the fact that this continues for South Carolina with Asia Wilson on the bench on both ends of the floor? I mean, she went to the bench with about 5 minutes to go, picked up her 2nd foul. She was on the floor to start the 3rd quarter, then picked up her 3rd foul about 8 seconds in, so they've outscored them 25-10 since. And now Amani Wright connects on a jumper.
Well, Dawn Staley would be the first to tell you that adversity has been this team's friend. Not just this season, but over her time at South Carolina. But this year in particular, Asia Wilson missed some games early in the season with an injury. Obviously losing Elena Coates, but they've been able to take a licking and keep on ticking. Zone here for Florida State.
Let's see if they can force some turnovers, or South Carolina take an air-by shot right on cue. The strip by Ivy Slaughter coming off that 9-steal game in the Sweet 16. Tough pass for White to handle. Excellent hustle. It'll be Florida State ball though. South Carolina trying to get to the Final Four. Can Dawn Staley's team challenge Connecticut? Who can break the streak in Dallas and the dominance of UConn? How can you not appreciate what Connecticut is doing right now? Because women's college basketball gets better every year. The competition better every year, yet Connecticut 111 straight wins, 10 straight Final Fours, 2 national championships, and look at their average margin of victory in the tournament, 38 points per win.
Yeah, it has been impressive. I mean, Gino, the job he's done, I don't think he gets enough credit for. People get tired of hearing the name Connecticut, but if you watch the excellence in which they play, the high level of basketball, I mean, you got to admire that. But when you look at the field and who's left out here, it's going to be a very intriguing matchup with Mississippi State. I mean, when you look at the size they have with Tierra McCowan at 6'7", Chinwe Okorie at 6'5", they've got bodies, they've got athleticism. If Victoria Vivians can hit shots and Morgan Williams continues to be Morgan Williams, they can give UConn a very good game and have a possibility of winning. Now, Stanford, I think they also have a chance. This is why. Tara Vanderveer, one of the best game planners that we've ever seen in women's basketball. She's going to come up with a great defensive scheme. She's got scores. Brittany McPhee, big fan of hers now. Carly Samuelson, obviously McCall. So they've got a shot as well. I would venture to say, Dave, that anybody still left playing can give UConn a go. I mean, they've had some close games this season. That's what everybody keeps forgetting about. I mean, they have had some close games.
Well, Florida State only lost by 2, had a chance to win it. Amani Wright missed a 3 at the buzzer that would have won the game. Connecticut beat all the #1 seeds in this tournament by 11 points apiece, including South Carolina.
I mean, they would play South Carolina if that happens on a neutral court, which changes the complexion of that game that they played early on the season.
Whoa, not sure where that pass was headed. The official was in disbelief. She thought that it might have been deflected, had to get confirmation that it wasn't. So there are the results that we're talking about with Connecticut playing these 2 teams.
Yeah, I mean, and look at South Carolina only scoring 55 points in that game. They have a much better offense right now at this time of the year than what they had when they played UConn then.
Elena Coates out for the season. That has helped South Carolina's offense in some ways, hurt obviously in others with the rebounding as Wright gets the steal. And boy, I thought actually Wright hit that last. Kayla Davis with a great strip. May have gone off of Wright. Wilson still on the bench and 3 fouls, but really hasn't mattered. Let's take a look here and see if Wright touched the glass or if it was off of Davis.
Looked like it might have been off of Wright. What a play by Kayla Davis. We've seen the offense, but they're tracking down the second effort on the defensive end.
Here's Romero, just 2 of 12 from the floor. They dump it down low. White powers it up, can't get it.
This wasn't a great angle. White caught that and really needed to get better post position to get it good off the glass. This is an undersized lineup for South Carolina, so Shatrice White should be able to score on the interior. Good job by Alicia Gray, but you see her feet were almost behind the backboard when she took that shot. That's just not good position.
And then she committed a foul after that. They were 3 of 11 from the floor here in the quarter. Here's that zone by Florida State. Davis able to see over the top, finds the open player, but the missed shot.
Can Shakayla Thomas get going in this game? Number 20 in black, the ACC Player of the Year, has yet to make an appearance in this game.
Thomas got an early foul and then picked up 2 and went to the bench for a while. She has 8 points tonight. Kayla Davis just picked up her second foul, so Romero's at the line.
And keep in mind, Shakayla Thomas's recruiting came down to really South Carolina and Florida State. Dawn Staley said, and hearing this from Dawn Staley, she said she hasn't seen an athlete like Shakayla Thomas, and that she really wanted her to be a Gamecock. But Thomas felt like she would get more minutes at Florida State, and at the power forward position, she was right. Because at that time, you're looking at Coach, you're looking at Wilson.
Right, but to hear that kind of compliment, think who Dawn Staley has played with.
It caught me off guard.
3 Olympic gold medals as a player. She's played with the best and against the best. Davis off the mark on the 3. I haven't seen Florida State with consecutive baskets in a while. They have a chance here to get it to 10, maybe single figures if Romero can knock it down. She can't, but she got her own miss and a free 2 points. Now South Carolina without a basket, so Kayla Davis says it's my turn to try and take over. She's got 20.
Against man, against zone, she has found places to score.
Romero, good find underneath. White with the basket.
Keep feeding her. Keep feeding her. She's got the size advantage. She's got a smaller Alicia Gray on her back. Go to Shatrice White.
That pass deflected, but it ends up in the hands of Klein, who puts it on the floor. And turnover. Thomas with the pick. Thomas facing up. They're going to let her shoot that. She didn't want to pull the trigger there. Now she's calling for it. Instead, the screen. Right for 3. Off the mark.
They have forced her to take contested shots. Almost every shot Wright has taken has been with a defender in the vicinity.
Think about it. They made 1 3 in 2 games here in Stockton, Florida State. 5 seconds to go in the quarter. Here's Harris. Gives it up. Davis. Deep 3. Won't fall. And that's the end of the 3rd quarter. Molly McGrath will talk with South Carolina head coach Dawn Staley when we come back. South Carolina 1 quarter away from a second Final Four appearance in 3 years. The Gamecocks in command. Florida State making a run to get within 10. But the Gamecocks still in control of this one as we go to the 4th in Stockton.
Welcome back to Stockton for the women's regional final. One of these teams will go to the Final Four, and at the start of the fourth quarter, South Carolina leads Florida State by 10 points. I'm here with head coach Dawn Staley. And coach, how is your team finding success with that smaller lineup with Asia Wilson on the bench?
Well, they slowed us down a little bit because they went zone and we got a little stagnant. We got to get Asia Wilson back in the game to give us a big target down there in the paint. But they're doing a great job pushing tempo and trying to get us back on our heels a little bit. So we prevailed a little bit without having a big girl inside. You mentioned it, Florida State switching it up on defense. How will you battle that? We got to keep penetrating it. Kayla's doing a really good job at penetrating, probing the defense, and finding gaps to shoot the ball. Thank you, Coach. Thank you.
Well, the only thing Dawn Staley has not done is won a national championship as a head coach. We could have listed about 15 other things on this graphic here for all of her accomplishments as a player and as a coach, and now she's the head coach of USA Basketball for the next Olympic run.
Yeah, it's that one elusive accomplishment for Dawn Staley as a player as well as a head coach. And it's no denying that what she has done in Columbia is one of the biggest turnarounds of a program we've ever seen, especially in that short amount of time. And they've had their challenges, but her ability to draw recruits, I mean, who doesn't want to play for Dawn Staley, you know? Her name is synonymous with the game of basketball. And then what she's built in terms of the family environment, the talent that she's attracted. I mean, this is a program, and I thought this year in particular, they really turned the corner in the conversation into the great programs in women's basketball, winning the SEC regular season 4 times in a row, the tournament championship 3 times, something that has only been done by Tennessee. So this season in particular, I thought Dawn showed that she could make adjustments, and that even with losing Elena Coates, this team looks fantastic.
Asia Wilson back on the floor. Of all the players who played for South Carolina, she has played the fewest minutes, only 11. Yet they have a 10-point lead.
And she's an AP All-American.
And a Wooden Award finalist. 3-point try is good for Harris. She's hit a couple of those. Ended the first quarter with a 3-point shot to beat the buzzer.
The immediate impact of putting Asia Wilson on the floor. You heard Dawn Staley say big target, or she was against that zone.
All right, for Florida State to have any chance to win this game, what has to happen?
Well, I think they've got to get more high percentage looks. Number one, they got to be more patient, get ball reversal, look to drive, and assist. The other thing they've got to do is go inside. Use Shatrice White, use Slaughter. But it's almost like we're seeing the same things on the offensive end. But for South Carolina, once you get the ball to Wilson, you see the defense collapse in, and you got to know where shooters are. I mean, Harris has already hit a long-range shot, so you can help in some on Wilson, but you got to be ready to get back out to contest.
Kleine picked up a foul, the first on Florida State here in the quarter, and Brittany Brown with a free throw. Florida State has never been to a Final Four, has trailed in every game in the NCAA tournament, and is going to need a double-digit comeback here in the fourth quarter against the 1 seed. 11-point lead for South Carolina, a minute gone by.
And still a lot of time.
And you leave Wilson wide open underneath. Great execution by South Carolina, taking advantage of the hole in the Florida State defense. They go to White. The step through, and White puts it in.
Keep going to her. You know that Asia Wilson has fouls. Go at her.
Wilson calling for it on the low block. Shot clock down to 9. Here's Wilson up top, and the double team comes, and a turnover. Brown forces it. Here's Romero ahead of the pack. Gets the layup. It's a 9-point game. Been a long time since this margin was in single figures.
Easy baskets in transition off of defense. That is what Sue Semrau's been wanting to see from her team.
46-37 was the last time that it was a single-digit deficit for Florida State. Here's Gray penetrating. Another turnover. Brown splits the defenders. Fires to Slaughter, missed the layup. White is there and puts it in. 7-point game. Transfer from Illinois has been a huge factor with the ineffective play of Shakayla Thomas for Florida State. And Thomas isn't out there right now on the floor for the Seminoles during this run. And Asia Wilson, by the way, is for South Carolina. Blocking foul here on Slaughter. That's her second and the first on FSU here in the quarter.
Well, the Noles have turned it up on the defensive end. You see the collapse. Very good job. If you're going to send a double to Asia, be disruptive with it. And then Florida State is able to score easy baskets here. Slaughter with the miss, but Shatrice White has been the handyman on the inside, especially with Wilson with those fouls.
Taylor Davis just came back into the game. She had been on the bench during that run by Florida State. Davis with a game-high 20 points. 9 of 14 shooting. Gray off the window, puts it home.
So smooth. 6 foot. But she has an arsenal on the offensive end. She can whip out a variety of shots from the floater. She's got a 3. She can post up now.
And they thought they lost her in the second round. She had to be helped off the floor as Romero gets it to drop in the 3. But they had to help Alicia Gray to the locker room. They thought she had suffered a serious knee injury at the time. It turned out just to be a Charlie horse. And Gray has been a huge part of this South Carolina dominance in the NCAA tournament.
Florida State mixing up their defenses, trying to keep South Carolina off balance.
Wilson fouled. She'll shoot 2. It's been a while since she's been to the line. Got to go back to the first quarter. White picked up the foul, her second. Well, tonight after we're done here, it'll be SportsCenter at night. John Anderson and Steve Levy. They'll break down both Elite 8 games. Have reports from the annual NFL meetings in Phoenix. Plus all the NBA, NHL, spring training news, everything else. SportsCenter at night with Levy and Anderson. I could picture Asia Wilson in the Levy Lounge. I think she would hold her own in there with her personality.
She has an amazing personality. Really one of the faces of women's college basketball. So intelligent, so charismatic. A great leader as well for Dawn Staley.
Although she just missed that second free throw. 7-point lead midway through the final frame. Here's Wright off balance. Probably not the shot you wanted there.
And we've seen that happen quite a bit tonight. The contested shots.
They're 2 of 11 from 3. They did not make a 3 and still beat Oregon State in the regional semifinals. Meanwhile, South Carolina still at 60% shooting. Offensive foul. That's 4 on Wilson.
Ivy Slaughter is undersized, which means she has to be able to use her quickness.
I don't know. That's not much there.
I would not have called a foul there.
And she did extend the arm. It was a good sell.
The left arm?
Thought she did extend the left arm, but it did look like a pretty good sell by Florida State. Brown driving, pulls up, in and out. South Carolina ball. Boy, the freshman point guard Harris has been so poised throughout this game for South Carolina. Missed only 1 shot. She's 5 of 6 from the floor, and Wilson is still out there playing with 4 fouls.
See, and there was no attempt on that possession to make the offense uncomfortable. That was too easy just to lob it inside to Wilson.
And Kleine is about to come in. I assume she's coming in for Wilson, so Dawn Staley's holding her breath that Wilson doesn't pick up that 5th foul. Wright missed the 3, but the putback goes for Slaughter. If you want Wilson out of the game that badly, you got 3 timeouts. Call one, right? I guess you're on the offensive end. You hope she didn't pick up another one if you're Staley.
Well, she doesn't need to dip the shoulder and drive either.
Just got called for an offensive foul to pick up her 4th. Here's Romero. They need it, and they get it. It's a 5-point game, 3:45 to play here in the Elite Eight, a spot in Dallas, and the Final Four at stake. Now a timeout by South Carolina.
Florida State has made this a game. Asia Wilson back in it, but her team struggling to deal with Florida State behind the play of Leticia Romero.
Florida State back within 5, and senior point guard Leticia Romero has made 5 of her last 9 shots. Started out at Manhattan, Kansas. And you see her in the huddle saying 4 minutes. This is it. Our season, my career is over in 4 minutes if we don't come back.
And this is where she has grown. The area of leadership, being more vocal for this team. And one thing that has really helped Florida State, we heard Rebecca talk about this in studio, is the second chance point. The Noles have 19 off the offensive glass.
And there's Brown with a steal. And she gets the layup. It's a 3-point game. So the senior guards we talked about in the open, Romero and Brown, coming alive here in the fourth quarter.
Another change in defense. Florida State back to a zone again.
Kayla Davis has been the go-to player. Oh, she lost the ball, but it ends up in the hands of Wilson. Now Gray slips, travels. Another South Carolina giveaway. Are they giving the game away?
See, I think because Asia Wilson has those fouls, she's tentative on the post-up. So finding space in there, but also trying not to be too physical inside that zone is not drawing as much defensive attention and opening gaps.
So now 18 turnovers by the Gamecocks. South Carolina led by 16 midway through the third quarter. Here's the ACC Player of the Year, Thomas, falling away. Can't get it. It hung on the rim, fell off. Rebounded by Alicia Gray. Thomas only 8 points on the night. They dump it down to Wilson, and she's fouled. Third team foul on Florida State. Side out. The journey to the Frozen Four in Chicago continues with regional semifinals and finals. The live triple header Saturday at 3:30 Eastern on ESPNU, and watch ESPN. Visit NCAA.com. The home for all 90 NCAA championships. White picked up the foul. Her fourth. Going to stay in the game. Wilson playing with 4.
She's got to be careful out here setting screens.
Check that, 3 fouls on White, 4 on Wilson.
Posting up.
There's the screen by Wilson. Gray will try the deep one. Can't get it. Offensive rebound. How about that? Prior to that right there, they had 1 offensive rebound. It was listed as a team offensive rebound, and it's the freshman point guard who comes up with the huge carry. Now Davis driving. Goes to the left hand and banks it in. What a shot. Right for 3. No good. Slaughter with the offensive rebound. And then how about the play by Cuevas Moore to get the steal, but a foul is called. It's actually out of bounds. Florida State ball.
Now this right here is a grown woman move by Kayla Davis. Oh, she might have got away with a hook there, but she did not displace the defender. I thought there was an overreaction there by Brown, but what about that move by Kayla Davis? When you need a bucket, she's delivered.
22 points on the night for Davis. You saw that shot of the elated father, Antonio, spent all that time in the NBA. I don't think he's going to sleep on that cross-country flight to New York to watch his son, AJ, play in the NIT tomorrow for Central Florida.
He's coaching. He's got his coaching hat on in the crowd.
Got his buddy Chris Mullen with him as well. Play together in Indiana. Romero can't get it. Rebound by South Carolina. And look who it is. It's Harris again coming up with a huge play. Do you foul or play it out? Ooh, they call the foul on Romero. I'm not sure.
You know, I think because they had been getting stops, they could play it out. I mean, they've been causing some discomfort defensively, but you can't let too much time go off of the clock.
4th team foul.
And Romero wasn't even trying to foul here.
That's a terrible call.
Yeah, I did not think she fouled. Wow. After getting another look at that.
That's a missed call.
Yeah.
That's a layup on the other end. Instead, it's a 5-point lead for South Carolina. They have possession. Give Florida State credit for coming back. But how about the plays by Harris, their point guard? And she got 6 rebounds in this game. 13 points, very efficient, 5 of 6 from the floor.
And she got the defensive stop on Romero. The thing that Dawn Staley has talked about is she's cerebral, so she thinks the game well. Dawn Staley has never started a freshman point guard ever, but she really trusts Ty Harris.
And Dawn has said, look, I'm hard on point guards. That's a position I played. I'm even harder on freshman point guards. But she hasn't had to say much to Harris throughout this NCAA tournament.
Well, she's an Indiana kid. Really did not commit until late because that's how cerebral she is. She wanted to make sure this was the right fit. And that was another question mark for South Carolina. Could they get the point guard play they needed this year? She hasn't answered the call.
Okay, because of that foul, now it's a fresh 30. Do you play it out or foul?
I think you foul because you've got Caleb Davis at 41 seconds. You don't want to let her run too much time off the clock. She's just running time off the clock.
And that was a good no call there. That was a flop by Brown.
It's a 2-possession game.
Well, now you can't foul. You let the shot clock go down to 7. You got to play it out now. Timer's at 5. Here's Gray with 2, and Gray can't get it. Rebounded by Florida State. They got to hustle, though. Down 5 points. 30 seconds to go. Brown driving, and it's blocked by Wilson. And a foul as Kayla Davis now will go to the line. How about Wilson, the leading shot blocker in the SEC, coming up with a defensive play?
See, my thinking there is you just can't let them beat up too much clock.
I'm with you. I think that was just a mistake, right? Extend the game. Put them at the line. I know Kayla Davis isn't the one you want to foul, but Ty Harris, she's a 65% free throw shooter. She had the ball in her hands for about 10 seconds. They missed an opportunity there to foul her. Although Davis at 80% missed the first free throw. Again, Florida State has never been to the Final Four. South Carolina has been a 1 seed. 4 straight years now. Only 1 Final Four to show for it. As the second one drops, here comes Florida State. They need this. Romero off the mark, batted around. Romero gets it again. And how about Wilson? Sends it back. White eventually finds the bottom of the net, but it's still a 4-point game with 12 seconds to go.
And I was just holding my breath as Asia Wilson went for that block because let's not forget she is in foul trouble, but what a play. Volleyball bats it down, but then no box out, and Shatrice White is there to recover.
So obviously, if you're Florida State, if you don't get the steal, you foul immediately. South Carolina, all that talk about coming out west. Dawn Staley not happy when she saw the bracket, found out for the 3rd time in 4 years as a 1 seed that she was going to have to come west. The one time they went to the Final Four, they beat Florida State in Greensboro. And again, the poise of their freshman point guard and how she handled the situation. Florida State was making a run, got it to a 1-possession game, but then the rebounds, the poise, the stop on defense.
Yeah, she's a name you don't mention. I mean, when you look at on that floor, we talked about Kayla Davis, Alicia Gray, and Asia Wilson, but every team needs a solid point guard, a floor general that can do the little things. And you didn't have to come into this program for Dawn Staley and wow anyone because you've got so many scoring options around you, but the decision-making being an extension of the coach, those are all very important things. Knowing time and score.
I'm really impressed with Tyasha Harris and her play throughout this NCAA tournament. But again, it was the offensive rebound here late, then the stop on Romero, which you pointed out, and the defensive rebound as well. Got another timeout, this one by South Carolina. Kayla Davis, the leading scorer in the game, 23 points. Let's not bury the lead here. Davis has been a star throughout this championship.
Well, you need someone to set the tone from the beginning of the game. And Kayla Davis came out looking like she has been here before, providing scoring. And really, there wasn't an answer defensively for Florida State. And I think that was frustrating for them. You know, when you're a team that's used to getting stops and getting points off turnovers, and Davis just did whatever she wanted to do.
Started out at Georgia Tech, transferred here after a couple of years. In the first round, wasn't much of a factor. Now there's her dad, Antonio, and Hall of Famer Chris Mullen. They were teammates with the Pacers. Kayla then against Arizona State. Remember, that was a tight game. South Carolina trailed in the fourth quarter in that game. Kayla Davis was huge, though, at 20 points in that one, at 28 in the regional semifinal, and 23 tonight in the regional final. They foul the freshman Harris with 11.4 on the clock. She'll shoot 2. Their team up 4. They've been fantastic at the free throw line here in Stockton. 31 of 35 at the line in the 2 games here in the regional round. Although Harris missed that one. But no timeouts for Florida State. You can advance the ball in women's basketball, but no timeouts. So Florida State unable to do that. You wonder, do they have enough time to get 2 possessions in?
It's going to be tough.
Got the second one. Got to hustle here. And it's picked off by Harris. And she's fouled. It's only a matter of time now. 8.1 on the clock for South Carolina. Somewhere Darius Rucker is crying. Right? It was the Dolphins first. Then it was the South Carolina men yesterday getting to its first Final Four. And now the women about to go there for the second time in 3 years. Harris gets the first one.
And you make a great point, Dave. Is Harris really the biggest piece of this puzzle? The addition of the transfers, but someone to get everyone organized, on the same page, but could also hit big shots, make good decisions. Ty Harris could be it.
Out of bounds to South Carolina. What a weekend to be a Gamecock fan. Men's team is a 7 seed, advances to the Final Four. The women's team about to get there for the second time in 3 years. South Carolina to the Final Four, 71-64. The Gamecocks beat Florida State. And to think they did it for a good part of this game without Asia Wilson. They're on the bench in foul trouble. I think that's your most outstanding player. What do you think?
What an NCAA tournament. I mean, Kayla Davis has been the answer to every question. No Elena Coates. What are you going to do? You need rebounds. You need production. And Kayla's done a little bit of everything. And we're looking at some seniors for Florida State who wish they could get this one back.
Yeah, Brittany Brown, Leticia Romero, Ivy Slaughter, 3 seniors who helped Florida State get to the Elite Eight twice in the last 3 years. But the Knowles night and season is over, and South Carolina for the second time in 3 years advancing to the Final Four.
You see Dawn Staley hugging her staff, Nikki McCray, Lisa Boyer, Fred Shamil, Melanie Balcom. Staff that's come together and gotten the best out of this team. But right there is the centerpiece, and now she has a compliment that has been major in Kayla Davis.
And Kayla is standing by with Molly McGrath.
Thank you, Dave. Kayla, over the past 3 games, you have caught fire and willed your team to a win. What was your mentality as you were battling against Florida State's runs down the stretch?
Oh, man, I mean, I
hats off to them. You know, they're an amazing team, really aggressive team. I think our biggest thing was coming out and being aggressive. You know, we didn't want to settle for jump shots. And, you know, like I said, they have a ton of great players. So we were just trying to attack them, hopefully get them in foul trouble, and it seemed to work out pretty well.
Next up, it's Stanford in the Final Four. What does your team need to do to keep this thing going?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we're rolling right now. You know, that's a good part about it. But, I mean, we're playing together. I think that's the biggest thing is, you know, we're sharing the ball well. We're playing defense. I think the biggest thing tonight was we got stops down the stretch, and we played defense. So I think if we keep that up, we might be all right.
All right, congrats on the win. Good luck in the next round.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, Dave.
Well, it's going to be a long night for the Davis family. Kayla gets to enjoy this. Her dad and mom, Antonio and Kendra, they might bring Chris Mullin with them back to New York to go watch their son AJ play for Central Florida in the NIT tomorrow night. South Carolina men to the Final Four. South Carolina women join them. Dallas is up next as the Gamecocks will play Stanford. Mississippi State will take on Connecticut in the Final Four Friday night. For LaChina Robinson, Molly McGrath, I'm Dave Pash. So long from Stockton. Let's send it back now to the studio. Maria Taylor.